Hi there. Again, this is Ermina, and we are going to talk about the power of silence. The power of silence tends to be associated more with the crone or those that are wiser. It is not often associated with the children mysteries, and it's definitely not associated with the virgin or the youth realm, states of womanhood. So it's usually a mature state that it's associated with. However, there are those who fall within the entire spectrum, and you guys know certain children and even elders who talk a lot, and children who don't talk at all, or middle agers who talk a lot, and young ladies who don't talk at all. So it can vary. However, the association is that with wisdom comes more listening and less talking. So that's the general understanding. It doesn't mean it's true for everyone, but that's the general understanding. So I'm here to present to you why that is and why it's important to learn the difference between silence as a choice and silence as being imposed on you. Let's say you live in a society where silence is imposed on you and you choose not to accept it. That is very different than, let's say, you're choosing to be more silent as a way for you to dive into deep reflection and for you to learn certain things. And I'll go into that in a minute. So let's talk about not number one, but one of the first things to know about silence. And it's going to sound like it's basic, but I have to say it. You cannot talk and hear at the same time. You might, uh, I'm sorry, let me add a little bit more to it. You cannot talk and hear at the same time. Yes, you can talk while there's music going on, and then you're going to feel the vibration, and you're going to be like, yeah, I'm listening to the music too as I'm talking to you. But the reality is you're going back and forth. You're not doing all of it, which means you might miss some of what's being said. You might misinterpret some of what's being said. And generally speaking, it may not matter, especially if you're at a party and just having a good time. It's not going to matter, right? But there are times it matters to give all of your focus toward your listening. Hearing is the first step. Hearing is a physical aspect of listening, but it's not listening. Listening is actually includes the processing of the information you hear. And that is no different than when you eat something and it has to be processed through your system, which takes time. So part of one of the things that we do uh, when we're quiet and we're listening, we're giving ourselves times to really understand the message. This is extremely important to women because of the mysteries we study in this class, but also it's important because, it's also important because one of the challenges that we face is, especially when it actually happens to everybody, but when it's male and female conversations, we communicate differently. And we are supposed to communicate differently because of the energies that we carry with us. But instead of understanding that part, we live in a Western society, and I'm speaking for the West only at this point, not for the West, I'm speaking in relation to the West. We live in a society that tries to make everybody the same, and in reality, the differences, as you're learning in this class, is important for that creation process to manifest at its highest because you get the full spectrum of being. But having said that, um, to be able to listen allows us to understand each other, to be able to process the information on both sides, allow us to really hear and listen to what's being communicated, because listening also happens in context, meaning you can say the exact same word, but you're in a different situation, it might mean something different, right? For example, saying the word fear and you're on a roller coaster means something different, whereas if you're using the word fear and you are in the middle of a battlefield, same word but different context has different meanings. So listening helps you to take the reflection time you need to get it. So I'll stop here and then move on to the next part of silence. Because silence allows us to not just hear outside, it allows us to also get in tune with the voices inside of us. We need the same thing, the same processing time, the same or similar processing time. Out here, we may have in our immediate environment 5 people. Let's say you live in a household, 2 people, a grandmother and a child, I don't know. You may have 5 people you have to actually listen to. But inside, and you all know what I'm talking about, you're listening to a whole lot of conversations. Grandma used to say, and then next thing you know, you're moving toward, it's connected with what Pop said, and then you're moving to Japan because Pop went to Japan. So now you're thinking about Japan, and then you remember seeing a video where the Japanese singer was holding a flower. So now you're thinking about roses, and it just seems to go and go and go and go and go. So that silence that you do, that inner silence that you do, over time allows all that noise to quiet down a little bit. It doesn't eliminate it because we've got trillions of thoughts at all times practically. It doesn't stop it, but it lowers the level long enough to help us reach a state of equilibrium or balance or that inner sound so that we can actually um, step into a state where we're connected with higher levels of our consciousness. This is important. When you're not silent, you're listening to all the stuff that's coming in, it's not difficult for you to do something that is not in alignment with your highest desire. That's when you follow bad advice. That's when you're likely to do some harm to somebody unintentionally because you just felt like it, but you didn't stop and think. You didn't stop and process. You didn't stop and reflect. So silence can aid us in that realm as well. The other part about silence, and this will be the last thing, there's many others, by the way. This will be the last thing I want to cover. The other thing about silence is actually a very strategic tool that can help you to be more stealth in your approach to life. Let me rephrase. It's a strategic tool that can allow you to be more stealth in life. Stealth meaning for you to be able to activate and do certain things without people knowing that you're about to do certain things. So, and some people find that one to be a little difficult because their first thought is, it's not a bit manipulative, well, actually, we do not have to share everything. I know this is a hard one, but we do not have to share every thought, and we definitely do not have to share our secrets. And I had to stop and take a breath on that one because we really want to know this. We do not have to share everything, and we definitely do not have to share all of our secrets. Why is that? Well, that puts you open in a way that can make you a target by those who may not have your best interests in heart. And because people are made of billions, trillions really of spirits, unless they've got full control over their dominion, which most people, the majority of people do not. They may like you, they may love you, but there may be that part of them that wants to corrupt or sabotage or whatever. Doesn't mean that person is bad. Doesn't mean that person is evil. Every time I hear that, I'm always saying it's not the whole person. It's the spirit within them that took control over them for that particular time. And there's a science behind that, by the way. So I'm sure there'll be a video about consciousness and how consciousness is activated so that you understand when a spirit takes over, they take over all the time. Right now, I'm speaking through me, speaking of spirit. The spirit that deals with the divine feminine is speaking through me, right? Because this is just a vessel. But we'll have that conversation later. But it works both ways. I can have a positive wording and language and speech, but I can also have a spirit, let's say a shadow spirit of the feminine who wants all women to be loud and crazy or something, in which case, although that might be useful in some instances, in which case it might actually prevent women from reaching their highest because they're not allowing themselves to sit with information that comes into their uh, various wombs. So these things are important. I just wanted to add that this is not about other people shutting you up. and preventing you from expressing yourself, that's very different. And if you pay attention around the world, you will find that the women who do the most reflection, who really sit with information, you cannot mess with them, because when they open their mouths, what comes out usually it's very, and I'm not referring to people who've been shut down. This is very different. I'm talking about people who consciously choose their words and consciously take time to speak from a deeper place. When they speak, you find yourself listening, because the words choices, the place it's coming from is from deep within. It's not frivolous, and it's definitely not being driven fully by the subconscious mind. They are taking some control over what comes out. So thank you for watching this video on the importance or the power of silence. And please add other information that you also think are critical and important. We'd love to hear, because there's a ton more reasons. Thanks again.